Thank you so much for joining us here at the Cinema 9 podcast. I am Travis Roy. I'm with Eric Branstrom as always. Our regular co-host Mike Govier could not be with us today, sadly, but we do have Dragon Movie Guy Brian himself from the YouTube website. This is your main thing is being on YouTube, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm on all the socials for the most part, but YouTube is the main deal for now.
Main deal. Well, thank you for joining us. If you guys are not following Dragon Movie Guy on YouTube, you definitely should. Lots of, and I guess I need to follow you on some other social media as well. I've just been on the YouTube, but this is like your thing, right? Like you make like little videos of like your reviews and all that kind of like what we do, but much more palatable and like bite-sized.
Yeah, most of what I'm doing currently is a lot of YouTube shorts, or just I call them instant movie reviews. So vertical video under 60 seconds, do a quick review as I'm coming out of the theater. And then I've been doing of the last month or so, I've been doing something I call before and after reviews, because I'm trying to capture that excitement that you have when you're going to the movies, and then sort of that post-movie glow sort of thing. So I'm capturing the 3 or 4 thoughts that I have, excitement points going into a movie, and then coming out afterwards and going, well, this worked, that didn't, but this, I should have been thinking this instead. So those have been what I've been working on lately, the before and after reviews, trying to do my spin on movie reviews.
Well, that's fun. You seem to have a lot of time at the movies. How often do you go to the movie theater?
Once or twice a week, but it's been a week or so since I've been.
Oh, so you've been slacking by your standards.
Well, I am slacking. I have all of my social media posts done through middle of March. That's what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. Jesus, and then I'm doing my big top 23 of 2023 preview video. So I'm kind of in the middle of editing that giant slog of a video. So
I respect your organizational skills.
Trying to be organized.
Well, we're missing Mike Govier here today. He says, I can attest that COVID sucks. Sorry, I missed you, Brian. He unfortunately, he's dodged it like me. He's dodged it this whole time and then just got it recently. He says that he and Leanne wish everybody a healthy new year. I guess probably a happy one too. We both watched Waiting together today. So he would be here to discuss it, which will be our main film, 2005, right? 2005's Waiting ... which was our new friend Brian's choice. So we'll be talking about that more here in a little bit. But as always, we're going to start things off with asking Eric, how's Griffith, Indiana?
Griffith is fine, but I'm suffering from what my doctor calls a post-viral infection in my throat. Like I can't swallow. I can't sleep. When will this nightmare end? I've been sick for 3 straight months. Granted, it's not COVID-19, but this is hell. This sucks so bad. But other than that, I've been doing good. Happy holidays to everyone. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season, and looking forward to bringing in a new year. Dude, Brian, there's some exciting films coming out in 2023 that I'm so excited about. Like, maybe you could give us a little, what are a couple that you have your eye on right now?
Oh, there's, I just happen to have my list handy as I call it up here. I am really excited, and there's, I'm someone that actually, I love all of the sequels and the franchises. I love all of those. We got 3 different Marvel movies scheduled to come out. We've got 2 or 3 DC movies scheduled to come out. And one of the ones I'm actually the most excited to right now is Oppenheimer, which is Christopher Nolan's new movie.
Dude, the trailer looks awesome.
Yeah, and it's sort of funny. They have they actually have a website up with the trailer running on a constant loop.
Of course they do. It's so Nolan.
And it actually has a countdown to the number of days until the movie opens, as if it's like the countdown until the Manhattan Project comes out and they start blowing off stuff. So I love that preview, because we don't have a whole lot out other than that one preview yet, but it's still several months away. So.
It's nice to see that Nolan's keeping like the event pictures come in. Like, no, this is event filmmaking here. You really don't see that from any other director and writer, man.
Yeah, there's only so many directors left right now that their names are above the title.
Yeah.
This is true. There aren't a whole lot of Kubricks right now, but I still like. I loved. I did see the Fablemans. I love Spielberg
loved it.
and everything.
Loved the Fablemans.
Pretty much anything Spielberg's ever done. I mean, there are exceptions to that rule, but Indiana Jones 4. Oh,
fan.
Skip that one.
I'll defend it. You got an hour? I'll defend it.
No, we don't have an hour.
Yeah, it's true. But also, Asteroid City is another one I'm looking forward to. That's another Wes Anderson movie. There's no pictures yet. There's no set photos, but
still giving this guy money.
It's Wes Anderson.
Did you like The French Dispatch, Brian?
I did.
Jesus.
It's not my favorite of his films, but I did like The French Dispatch.
I feel like Grand Budapest Hotel shows us that he's like that's still relatively recent. I think it shows that he's still got a lot of promise in him. But French Dispatch kind of shows that artists, they really, in my experience, mostly they have like a batch of good work and then they kind of start to decline usually.
Yeah, and I think Grand Budapest is probably my favorite of the ones I've seen of his. Tarantino's the same way. Like I love Tarantino, but if you're a director, how do you have it to where Pulp Fiction is one of the greatest films of the 20th century and it's his second movie ever?
Whoops.
Like where do you go from there?
Star Trek? I don't know.
I wish.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. I think he's going to be writing books is my prediction. He's going to stop writing movies and write books.
Well, he said he only wants to do 10 movies total, which
right.
Depending on how you calculate that, there's only 1 or 2 left. So
yeah, supposedly just that. We'll see. We'll see. Well, we usually start things off with our quarantine viewing picks, what we've been watching before we discuss the main event, which you're a regular viewer. It's nice to have you go from like being the name on screen to being like a face on screen.
Sitting on the couch to sitting on the couch on camera.
It's not a huge leap, really. To listening to us, to talking to us, you too, listeners, could be on the Cinema 9 podcast. Sure. Let's see. I've been watching a shit ton of movies, guys. I mean, I've been on break more or less, and there was bad weather, so I watched a lot of movies. I watched a lot of Christmas movies, more than I even have time. I'm not even going to bore you guys with the many, many Christmas movies. I will say that as promised, when we did The Family Man, I did watch Trapped in Paradise again. And God damn, Dana Carvey out Lovitz in that one, man. How do you out Lovitz? I mean, he's so annoying in that movie. Almost unwatchable because of Dana Carvey. No, he's so fucking annoying in it. I mean, I have not seen this movie in a while, but Dana Carvey talks like this in the whole movie. It's really,
really I love Conan O'Brien, but I still say Dana Carvey should have gotten late night after Letterman left.
Yeah, I think it was the drum set that threw things off. It's like way too much drums. We don't want to watch you play drums, Dana. We want to make you make some jokes. All right. I watched some other Christmas movies. Miracle on 34th Street has not aged well. It's basically the movie's about, hey, this woman has a job and she's a single mother. We need to fix her, man. It's really.
Oh, come on, man. Dude, here we go. I just watched it last week.
Really?
I love it. I check in every year.
That's the plot, man. I just explained the plot. It's like,
how did you feel about the fact that they just bring on that dude to play Santa? There's no talk of any money or it being a job. They're just like, all right, now we need you at this store and then at this store. He's like,
now, are you talking about the original Miracle on 34th Street from the 30s?
Yeah, 34.
46.
Wow.
46. Okay. No, it's really 46.
Mm-hmm.
Same 46. Year. No, 47 because it was a year after Life. It's a Wonderful Life.
Hey, I'm just impressed that they were acknowledging single mothers in the 40s.
This is true. I mean, for its time, it's certainly, it's got its thing.
How about It's a Wonderful Life being about suicide?
Yeah. So, no, that's why it's partly why it's an American classic.
He's trying to kill himself in the beginning of the film.
Capper's complicated. I watched a bunch of other Christmas movies. I won't go into all of them again. I mean, why did I watch Fred Claus for a third time?
Why?
I don't fucking know.
How did you get to 3?
I don't know. I don't know why. I've gotten a good answer for that. I will say that The Night Before from 2015 with Seth Rogen and all those guys holds up a little bit better than I thought. I thought it kind of sucked when it came out, but I enjoyed it this week. And
now,
as much
better Vince Vaughn Christmas movie, Four Christmases or Fred Claus?
Oh, Four Christmases, hands down, definitely, no contest. I'm ready for whatever the third offering he'll bring us. I'm sure he's got another one in the belt. What else did I watch? As far as Christmas movies goes, I mean, speaking of Scrooge, or did I mention Scrooge? I watched Scrooge, of course, which we've done before on this show. And then I did Scrooge, A Christmas Carol, the new a butthead. I did the new animated one for Netflix. Like, man, don't bother. Yeah, another one. And at this point, it's like, whoa, if you're gonna do it, bring something new. Give us a reason to do it at this point in 2022. If you're going to just rehash the same shit, it's animated this time. Well, they've done that, and they've done it better than that. So I
just scrolled past Guy Pearce as Scrooge. I'm like, there's no fucking way. Next, like, why?
No, it's Luke Evans.
I mean, is it? Is it?
Yeah.
I saw Guy Pearce and I saw A Christmas Carol. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me with this?
No, he. That's a different Scrooge. That's from that's a Hulu miniseries that I watched last year.
Enough of this.
A 4-part one that wasn't terrible, actually.
A 4-part miniseries,
very dark, so dark. Went on forever. It was a commitment.
Is it Zack Snyder dark?
I've got things to say about Snyder actually in a little bit, but I watched some shitty Christmas movies. I watched Christmas is Canceled from last year, which with Dermot Mulroney, and man, that movie bombed for good reason. Just fucking terrible. What else did I watch Christmas wise? Anything else new? I watched Noel from 2019, which I hadn't seen, but it's got your girl in it. I know you love her, Anna Kendrick.
Good Lord.
Would you watch her do laundry?
I would. Yeah, I would even watch Noel. I like her that much.
I didn't watch it for her. I watched it for Barry himself. You know, I watched it for Bill Hader, and I was like, oh, you're barely in it. Oh well. And then of course I got into some non-Christmas movies. I watched other Christmas movies too, but I'll stop. I did check out Glass Onion, of course.
Okay.
The day it came out. Did you guys watch this movie?
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to it. I can't get in the mood.
No, not yet. I mean, I do kind of wish I'd seen it in theaters. I remember seeing Knives Out in theaters, and just it was a good theatrical experience, a lot of laughs and that kind of stuff. And I laughed. It's enjoyable. I don't know that's quite as good as Knives Out, but it's a very good sequel. I feel like it's a lot less mysterious as far as mysteries go than Knives Out, but it was still totally worth seeing, and I will watch whatever third one comes out from this series. I decided to strap in and watch the movie Dog from this year, from 2022, with what's his name?
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum, co-directed by Channing Tatum. I was
I always think of Channing Tatum. That's right. I've got a job.
Oh my god, Jesus,
that's funny. I got misty-eyed before the credits were up, so that I was like, oh god, this is why I wasn't really thinking I could handle this movie. But
it's about a dog. You gotta be prepared.
Yeah, but actually, I was pretty fine for the rest of the movie. I didn't fall apart any other points in the movie. The opening bit was rough, but it was a sweet movie. I mean, kind of dumb, some really dumb moments, like fell short of being what it could have been, but not bad. If you like, I want to say Chandler Bing every time. Chandler Bing, Channing Tatum, with these fucking made up movie star names. Strange World.
Yeah, Strange World. Okay. Let's do a real review.
Say again, Brian.
How was Strange World? The animation didn't look particularly good, so I haven't seen it yet.
Dude, this has got to be like one of the most forgettable fucking Disney movies I've seen in a long time.
It made like $1 million.
Well, I think it's got some pretty progressive things as far as Disney goes. Like there's like the young boy character, he's got a crush on another boy, for instance. So there's some things like that in the movie that made me think like maybe they deliberately squashed the marketing on this because they thought like it was gonna fail anyway, so they just didn't support it. But also maybe despite that, they just knew it was kind of a dull film. It's just like, I mean, it's just kind of mediocre. It's just kind of boring. I'm like, this movie's fucking boring. I'm glad I'm not a kid sitting here for 2 hours trying to get through this thing. I mean, I don't know. It was not great. Speaking of not great, I checked out Me Time, also from this year. This is the lowest rated Kevin Hart movie, and I believe the lowest rated Mark Wahlberg movie. I don't know why I tried, but I tried. I don't know what's
I
wrong.
swear to God, algorithms are just pouring these out. Are there even filmmakers involved, or are they just like churning
Dude,
these out of a computer?
It's what's his
Yeah, it
name?
must have been an
John.
AI script.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's I think his name's John Hamburg. It's the same dude that he wrote and directed I Love You Man, which I love. I Love You Man. So I totally thought like maybe it'll be, you know, and I like Wahlberg and Hart, okay. So I thought it'd be okay, but oof, not good. Not good. There's a movie called RRR from this year that's got a lot of buzz. Have either one of you gentlemen seen this movie? You've heard of this movie?
I initially, when I heard the name RRR, I just thought that was a Robin Williams biopic. No,
Right?
but I have not seen it yet. No.
Yeah, you know, like I watched a preview for it and went, man, I don't know, but it's getting so much buzz that it's the end of the year and I'm seeing it pop up on some best of lists and that kind of stuff.
Well, it's on Netflix now too, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. You know, it's a 3-hour movie. It's in Hindi. I'm like, I've got some time to kill today. I'll sit down and I'll watch RRR. Dude, I got 15 minutes into this fucking movie and went, you know what? Life is too short. Life is too short. It is the most bombastically, aggressively male thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't do well with machismo and like but I mean, not to ruin it because it's the first couple of scenes, but literally there's a dude fighting like 1,000 people at once, like literally 1,000 people at once and winning, like kicking their ass. And then like he goes into a room and punches things and like just has abs and screams. And I'm like, I can't. I can't. It was so male. I couldn't. So I gotta say I did watch at least one good movie this week. What did I watch that was good? I watched Glass Onion. That was good. I watched and The Good Nurse. I watched that today finally.
That was okay.
It was okay. I felt like, damn, I wish I'd heard of Charles Cullen before. I'd never, I mean, this person could be one of the most prolific serial killers in history. As far as we know, I'd never even heard of him. And I thought the movie did a really good job of highlighting the fact that he was facilitated by capitalism and our broken healthcare system in America, and the fact that like hospitals were shuffling him from place to place, not wanting to take the fall for it, and just servicing their bottom line. So I thought it was good. I thought Eddie Redmayne was really, really strong in it. But yeah, didn't blow me away or anything. So those are the movies I watched. Again, like I could just go on about all the Christmas movies I watched, but I'll stop there.
Dude, I'll be real quick because like I was so goddamn busy. It took me like 12 hours to drive to my family's place in that blizzard. I don't know why I just disregarded the major blizzard warning and covering the entire state. I was like, I'll be fine. I was driving like 10 miles an hour for like 12 hours.
People were dying. You're like, I can do it.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just looking forward to like the lasagna and like not thinking.
How
Didn't watch much.
Is that?
Normally it's 3 hours from my place to see my folks, but it turned into like an absolute nightmare. But I made it out all right. Dude, okay. I turned on Ernest Saves Christmas. Like I grew up with Ernest. I love Ernest P. Worrell. I'm like, how could you go wrong? It's been like 30 years. I hit play. Oh, Jesus. Like, oh my God. It's too much. It was too much. I had to turn it off. It was just too much. Yeah. I was like that for an hour and a half. I can't. I'm going to turn it off now before I start to dislike Ernest. I'm going to keep that warm memories in my heart.
There you go.
The hell else did I watch, dude? Nanak of the North. I watched Nanak of the North. It popped up on HBO Max. Well, I'm doing research. Like I might actually, I don't know. I'll save that for later. But I'm doing some research on a possible project. So I watched Nanak of the North, and it's a lot of fun. Like I know all the controversy, but like you can you can stage stuff, but like you like just you the filming and the framing and the beautiful majestic landscapes are enough for me. I mean, it's 1922. What are you going to do?
And dude, I mean, what thinking just to jump in real quick. I mean, like any complaints that people have about one of the first documentaries that had some stage stuff in it. What was the name of that Brazilian documentary that came out last year that was nominated for Academy Award that was like clearly just scripted, where the dude went into like a old folks home?
Oh yeah, the control room or something.
Right. So now it's been like 100 years, and it's ridiculous. Still, documentaries still, you got to take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah. That was that, and all the old classics. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much it, dude. I was just busy and sick and driving, but we'll give you the floor, Brian. What have you been up to? Give us some hot recommendations for the week.
Well, actually, I'm a little bit late to the game, but Wednesday. I'm only 4 episodes into it, but Wednesday is actually surprisingly good. Like I love the Addams Family. Watching that when I was a kid and on reruns all the time, and it's just. But Jenna Ortega is good in pretty much everything she does.
Yeah,
whether it's X or Scream, and her as Wednesday Addams. Who would have known? But I've gotten 3.5 episodes through that, and
that's when I got a little exhausted, Brian. That's kind of when I stepped away. I was like, all right, I get it. Like I can't do like 6 more episodes of this. It's kind of like wore itself out. But I don't know, man.
I liked it. I like the idea of sending her to a boarding school. I think is a fun idea. I love Louis Guzman and him, and I know they're only guest stars, but the idea of him and Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia and Gomez Addams, it's just it's fun. So I like that one, and then I got into the other one. I got into was The Vow on HBO Max. Which is the Chloe from Smallville sex cult.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I'm not a true crime aficionado. Like every once in a while, a show will come along, like the one that was on the Golden State Killer, that Patton Oswalt's
fantastic.
wife.
Yeah.
That was good, but this one was really interesting because it's got Catherine Oxenberg from Dynasty. It's got the ex president of Mexico's son. Like there's all kinds of weird connections. Like the Seagram's alcohol heiresses are part of this thing. And
oh shit!
The other thing that's interesting is that it's like these things on cults. Like don't particularly interest me in general, like all the Scientology stuff and all these other cults, but the fact that this is based off of a self-improvement course, basically, and it's college educated people that are have access to stuff. These are not stupid people. These aren't people looking for a new religion. It's theoretically about self-improvement, and they end up in a sex cult. To me, that's fascinating how that happens. And are they just true believers? Are they just, and how there's and with like everything cults, there's always some guy at the center of it that's
of course
an expert level at manipulating people.
Anytime some guy thinks he has all the answers, his dick's coming out. I mean, what else?
I will say that if you got to join a cult, a sex cult, you could do worse. It's better than a suicide cult.
Chloe from Smallville. But the fact that the other thing that was interesting about this cult was one of the members of the cult is a Hollywood director. And so the head of the cult actually instructed everybody whenever they have interactions with the actual cult leader to record it. So you actually hear him slowly twisting people's minds and stuff. And it's really fascinating just from a, hearing people's conversations and, sort of eavesdropping sort of a thing. And how this guy manipulates people. It's really sad. It's interesting. It's fascinating. And it's interesting too, like the overall story of how they finally caught him and sent him to jail and all that kind of stuff. So
there's The Vow. If you want to get into a cult, like a rabbit hole of movies, Brian, check out a movie called Sound of My Voice 2011. It's like a found footage cult movie with Britt Marling. I remember that being pretty damn cool. See if you can find it. I think you'd like that. It's
nice.
Weird.
What's it called?
It's called Sound of My Voice. Flew by the radar, and I was kind of like blown away when I saw it. Really cool.
Nice. I haven't heard of it before. I mean, I've seen Kevin Smith's movie Red State, but that's probably the closest.
False is a really good cult movie.
Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, whatever that was. That was really cool. John Hawkes.
What's the one that there was that mumblecore horror one that was basically Jonestown that was pretty good too? The Sanctuary, I think it's called, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway,
Sacrament.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Cult.
All right. You watch anything else, Brian?
The other thing I watched last night was being all of us being aspiring film critics. I watched a documentary that went to one of the European film festivals last year. It was about a Spanish film critic who's been he's like the Siskel and Ebert of Spain. and he's sort of his name's Carlos Boyega, or I'm messing up his name, but that was an interesting one too, because he's basically a real life film noir character who did all the drugs, who did drank all the booze, slept with all the women, and stumbled into a career as a film critic. And they compared his writing to Hemingway in its structure and style. So that was actually a really good. They didn't go too much into his review. This was more about his personality, but I just finished that up last night too. So that's
cool.
That's cool. Sounds like my kind of guy. All right, well, those are the films that we've discussed for our quarantine viewing picks, which means that it's time to shift into, well, the main event. It's time to get into 2005's Waiting ... which I will say every single time. Now, this was Brian, Dragon Movie Guy's choice. Eric and I had never seen this film, either one of us, before. Mike had, and it sounded like he had some affection for the film. We ordinarily would, we start this segment talking about our remembrances and our first experiences with the film. So obviously me and Eric don't have a lot to say on that account, but do you remember the first time you saw it, Brian, and why you brought it to the table?
I do. I was still up in Seattle at the time. I've been in Vegas since 2006, so this is like a year or two before I left. And I've always loved Kevin Smith movies and workplace movies in general. So I love Clerks. I love pretty much every workplace movie you can think of. And I've never worked in the service industry, but this movie, when I saw that Ryan Reynolds was attached, and then Justin Long and Anna Faris, those were the names that initially kind of grabbed my attention. And seeing the trailer and everything that was in the trailer actually being in the film, I actually just everything about the film, watching it the first time, I do remember watching it in theaters, and watching the guy who's too nervous to pee in public in a public restroom, and all of those things in the trailer winding up the film. It's just that perfect workplace comedy.
Gotcha. It's funny because this fits right into the vein of Clerks and that kind of stuff. Even with it being an independent auteur. I mean, he ended up getting a lot more funding than Kevin Smith did to make this movie. But I don't know that if Clerks had not come into existence and done well, that he would have gotten the funding to do this movie about 10 years later. It's very much in that vein. That's a good comparison.
And even Office Space too, and Office Space had Mike Judge behind it. But that was a movie that when I was in high school and college, I worked for 7 years in a movie theater through college. And Office Space was one that when Office Space opened up, it was in and out of theaters in like a week. And
I remember.
And it didn't even open up in one of the bigger theaters. Like it was in our complex, it was the Everett Mall 4 through 10, and there's like the three big ones at the top, and then there's the ones that have been out 3 weeks, the smaller theaters at the bottom. And this one was in and out of the small theater in like 2 weeks.
I bet.
Yeah.
So the fact that Waiting comes out 2 or 3 years after that, it just grabbed my attention. Anything Ryan Reynolds grabs my attention pretty quickly, because it always seems to me that Ryan Reynolds is doing a Chevy Chase impersonation or channeling Chevy Chase in some sort of way, shape, or form. So I love Ryan Reynolds, and this is sort of peak, Van Wilder, peak Ryan Reynolds. That era.
Yeah, this is definitely when he hit the ground as like going from like no longer like a sitcom star you might not know the name of to being like Hollywood kind of almost a Hollywood fixture. He was the star was rising very much with this movie, and that it seems to have helped the star continue to rise. We typically will explore the IMDb score and some reviews and that kind of stuff. Eric, what do you think the IMDb score is on this guy?
I accidentally checked it out when I rented the film.
Okay. Do you know? Do you got a guess, Brian?
Oh, I would guess 7 out of 10. Probably
I think I may have seen it as well. Is it 6.4, Eric?
I think I'll be goddamned if it isn't 6.8. Let me double check.
It is 6.7. I'm looking right now.
Yeah. Okay.
It is 6.7. All right.
That's the hard thing with comedies, though. They never really rate with the hardcore critic crowd.
Well, and also 6.7 is not terrible by any means. I mean, I agree that with comedies it's a little harder because it's a little more broad. Like, if you're dealing with the drama, like, okay, that's sad, that's universal. Comedy's a bit more subjective. I don't think 6.7 is bad at all, especially with 99,000 ratings here. That's a lot of ratings.
Wow. I think the fun part is when you go over to Rotten Tomatoes and you've got a fresh bucket of beautiful buttered popcorn from the audience at 75%, but 30% on the thermometer is quite a big variance there between the two.
That's one of the biggest divides I think we've had on the show.
Right?
Wow. Do you got some reviews there in front of you too? Because I don't have any reviews in front of me. I always suck at
Dude, I'm seeing a lot of splats here, man. I'm seeing an absolute ton of green splats. Heather Bomer of Common Sense Media, undercooked, overdone raunchy comedy. Okay, so yeah, a lot of food puns, a lot of cooking puns, a lot of restaurant puns. We have to watch the cast struggle and squirm just to make each scene not as horrible as the last, says David Cornelius of efilmcritic.com.
Oh, okay. So critics did not like it. Audiences do. It's
critics. Yeah, it's tough to find a fresh tomato, man, from the top critics. It's really hard.
There's almost as many bad cooking puns there as there are in all of the Russell Wilson "Let Russ Cook" criticisms from this season.
Man. Now it has become a bit of a cult classic, which would explain that audience rating and the 6.7. I think it definitely has a pretty strong following, probably particularly for people that have been in the industry. I think would have a special. If you watch this movie when it came out, and or if you're in the industry, I feel like you're going to have some extra affection for it. Probably if you missed it.
I've always heard people talking about it, like since it came out. I've always thought it was like, it very much, not just because they're both workplace comedies, but it very much reminds me of like Office Space. Is like this small comedy that like everyone else has seen, but I've missed. It just has gained this following.
Wait, you've never seen Office Space?
No, I've seen it, but I've seen it. But one positive from Roger Moore, of course, from the Orlando Sentinel.
The other Roger Moore.
He usually has some good review. He dug the film, man. Waiting makes us wait too long between laughs, but its sly awareness of the people and the work might transport you back to that Pizza Hut, Olive Garden, or TGI Fridays in your own order up past. So yeah, a lot of restaurant kids in 2005. I just remember like, you got to see Waiting. Hey, it's like that scene in Waiting.
That TV show, The Bear, came out on Hulu this year, and you and me both really liked it.
Fantastic.
Did you see it, Brian?
I have not seen it. I loved him as Flip on but I have not seen The Bear yet.
Yeah, if you like him, he's really strong in The Bear. But when I watched The Bear, one of my big takeaways was like, my God, and I said this on the show before, but I was like, my God, why is there so many police procedurals when everybody you fucking know and their brother works in a restaurant? That's what's relatable. I mean, like that's what's relatable. Why is there not more movies about that? So I mean, or TV shows, or just explorations of that world in general. Because I mean, if you don't know someone who's in it, you probably yourself have done it, or at the very least have gone out to eat in a restaurant in your life. So it's very relatable. And so that was one of the main things that stuck out to me watching the movie. I'm like, this is all extremely relatable as an employee, as a former employee of Tijuana Flats in Orlando, Florida. I was living in Orlando, Florida, and working in a restaurant when this screenplay was being pitched and bandied about by the guy. What's his name? The writer director, Rob McKittrick, who wrote this, working at a Orlando Bennigan's or some,
of course,
such as that, and got it made. This movie really has like this is the dream. This guy wrote a screenplay based about his life while he was living that life, and then worked for 8 years to get it made. And not only did it get produced, he got tapped to direct it. I mean, that's living the dream, if there ever was one. You got to give him credit for that.
And he hasn't done much since, but he was apparently he was the co-writer or the writer of Tag.
Yes.
2 or 3 years ago.
Co-writer of Tag and also the writer of Still Waiting from 2009. Still waiting. ...
I try not to blame him for that one though. Still Waiting is
I didn't catch it.
It's not good.
All right, well, let's dive into this movie here, and I would like to preface it myself by saying to any listeners and to the Dragon movie guy himself that it's a damn shame that Mike Govier is not with us. For one, it's kind of weirdly fitting that the last episode of the year that would not be a full boat for our regular host, because we just had kind of a rocky few months in getting us together. But it is a shame extra that he's not here, not just because he has COVID, but because I think he would be perhaps a staunch defender of the film.
He's worked in like 50 restaurants.
Yes, he has worked in many restaurants. He knows that life very well. And like I said, he seems to have enjoyed the movie. I watched it.
And a big butt.
Here we go.
Pause, butt.
I'm a little
very pregnant.
Brian, I don't know you. You seem like a nice guy. I want you to keep liking our show, and I want people to listen to the show, be like, oh, Waiting. They're going to do Waiting. Perhaps we'll have nice things to say about my favorite movie. I don't know that I'm going to have a ton of nice things to say about the movie Waiting. I'm going to just load that up front.
He's putting it out there. He's warning you.
Be prepared.
Loading it up.
Well,
yeah, just want to, prepare people, but I do want to start positively. So what are some of your favorite things about the movie, Brian? What are the things that, like, when you have like good memories about the movie, like what are the things that draw you back to seeing it again?
Well, this is a film that a lot of times when my friends and I get together and we do a barbecue, a pool party, that sort of thing, this is one of the films that we put in the Blu-ray or the DVD in the background. So it's just sort of playing while everyone's eating food, and it's one that all of my friends, I got them to watch it, and they all loved it. And so this one, it's just one of those for anyone that's worked in the service industry. And that's the funny thing is I've never actually worked in the service industry. I was a lifeguard in high school. I worked in movie theater for 7 years, and I worked in media for 17 years. But I've never actually worked at a restaurant. So the fact that I feel like I've worked at a restaurant after watching this film speaks to how well this film is relatable when you're talking about those jobs that we all have in high school and in college and in young adulthood. So the fact that I don't have any firsthand experience, and yet this is one of my go-to workplace comedies, almost as much as Clerks, says how much I love this film and have fond memories of this film.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, one thing this movie, one thing I'm hard pressed to find something, but I did. Something the movie does well is it works well as a hangout movie, Brian. To be able to throw something on just in the background that you don't have to pay attention to, that's not an easy thing to do, and it's kind of even like a little subgenre or like what are those things called? Like subcultural? I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's like kind of a niche. I was a host a couple of times, like in restaurants, which was fucking so stressful as hell. Every single time I'd sit a customer, they'd be like, "No, I don't want to be there," and then like the people would get all pissed that like I was like all the waiters would get super mad at me, and like I'd be like, "I'm sorry, they didn't want to sit in this shitty place right next to the bathroom." Every single time, it was a nightmare. So the small taste I have of the restaurant industry is being a host. And I did kind of get the feeling like I was back there. Granted, it was a terrible feeling because I hated the job. But the film does a good job of giving you a day in the life of an industry. That's not easy. This could have been a lot worse in terms of giving you that feeling.
I think you may have hit something there as to why you and I have a different reaction to it than Brian, perhaps, because I spent a year as a line cook. And when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I'm having fucking flashbacks. This is like, this is all too real. And it was not funny or fun to experience, like, when the waitress that has been there too long starts having like the freak out screaming bit during the,
Naomi.
Yeah, Naomi during the dinner rush hour. I worked lunch rushes. I worked during the day. I worked lunch, but I mean that's like, yep, every lunch, someone would lose their fucking shit and throw a quesadilla at the wall, and there I'd be like with like the 80s, every 80s lunch hour would be like 80s lunch hour, and I'd be like making like burritos and like being a fine screaming behind me because like they dropped something. I don't know like why, but I'm like that. Like that came back to me. People dropping food on the floor and quickly picking it up. I'm like, oh, I've seen that happen before. There's definitely, the partying together afterwards, like on a random Tuesday or whatever. Like all of that stuff brought back a lot of memories, and most of them weren't great.
Dude, I got some fuzzy memories of like cramming into like the dungeon after like closing Blockbuster and just like having like 20 people in one room, just having fun, winding down at the end of the night. I did kind of, I hate the material in those scenes that I'll get into, like every interaction in those scenes I dislike for obvious reasons, but the feeling of the after party, I did kind of like that mood. That seemed fun to me.
Well, it also kind of covers that time in life when it's past high school, it's kind of post college, and
early 20s.
It's sort of like there's a show on ABC like 10 years ago called Wasteland, where they talk about how it's you're not quite an adult, but you're not a kid anymore, and what do you do to get from there to here, and those interesting years. But I love that there's a different character at a different place in this film, like David Koechner from The Office and from Anchorman as the manager, who no one wants to hang out with. Justin Long, the guy there. I think he says it at one point. He's talking with Chi McBride, and he's like, and Chi McBride's like, I remember when you were hired a year and 4 months ago. And so you're looking at this character in Justin Long's character who's done. Like he is done with this. And he's been there a year and 4 months.
Was that how long it was? Oh man.
Remembering when a year and 4 months was a long time.
Yeah.
Well, a job like that could maybe burn you out.
And seeing exactly why that it is a long year and a half.
Yeah. Well, to get to, I think what Eric was alluding to about, I do want to pause and agree very much with, like, this is such a specific time in people's lives, and there isn't a lot of movies made about that. And if they are, they're often something like SLC Punk or something like that, where like they're so far outside the norms. This is very grounded in like reality and believability in a lot of ways, in a common experience for people of that age in not just America, but throughout the world. So that I really respected. But 2005, man, what a weird time for comedy. I mean, like, because racial slurs, no way, we're not putting them in our movie. Probably every other slur, yes, please, extra. It's very strange. I'm just like watching the movie. I'm just like, well, shit, there's another scene that's like difficult, straight up difficult to listen to people say the words that are in that scene.
Strange thing, man.
And you're right, this is probably a film that would not be made today, or it would not be made in the same way for sure.
This script would have been thrown in the trash. They'll be like, all right, we'll give you a day in the life of restaurant, but everything else page one rewrite. It's amazing this is 2005 for me, even. Like you said that this guy McKittrick wrote this 7 years prior to that.
He wrote it
I can see this coming out like quote unquote comfortably in 1997, but even for 2005, like, excuse me, but like fag and retard every 5 seconds was surprising it's not big. Like in 2005 seemed very strange to me. Even I thought we were done with that even then.
I think a lot of it too is coming for where the characters are in their lives. These are the characters are early 20s. They're on that ground level of the service industry, and they're speaking as those characters would speak.
You're 100% right. I mean, you are 100% right. It is for 2005, for someone in that age, at that age, like in that job, it's extremely believable. So I don't challenge the believability of it. I'm just saying that like it is kind of an assault in some points where it's just like the F word over and over and over and over and over again. But on the other hand, like I remember being that age, and at that time that you could turn a corner and there's your friends Johnson hanging out. That was a possibility. I can't pretend like it wasn't. Now at your place of work, you're kind of setting yourself up, perhaps for a weekend in lockup or something, and so being on a public registry for the rest of your life. But it was that, yeah, I mean, it's believable, it's realistic. I do respect that, even if it's not enjoyable to sit through and listen
to. Okay, we're post Kevin Smith prime. We're even post like Todd, what the fuck is this guy? Todd Phillips. We're even post like Road Trip in like American Pie and stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
For me, it's kind of redundant in 2005. Even for this type of humor seems a little worn out even by then. And this is before Hangover, where it was this resurgence, and with like R-rated Apatow stuff that was like raunchy but like sentimental. It's just as a very odd year, and I think this movie is just kind of an anomaly in that respect.
Well, and it's interesting too because this was sort of not a pet project, but this was a project that was championed by Ryan Reynolds for those 8 years that Rob McKettrick was trying to get it made, and Ryan Reynolds was that guy who was in Hollywood trying to make all those deals, trying to get a cast on board. And if you look at the cast on this film, it's amazing how many people that were already established in their careers took small roles in this film just to, I believe, try and make it happen. I mean, Chi McBride at the time was in a David E. Kelly show. He was leading Boston Public. Louis Guzman had already been around. He had been in
Boogie Nights and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, Boogie Nights, all kinds of stuff. So the fact that the supporting cast, this is Dane Cook in a supporting role right before he hit big on MySpace. So
is that what it was? It was right before he hit big? Because as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I've never said this in my life before, but I'm like, well, Dane Cook's kind of wasted here. It feels like he's not doing nearly enough. But it was right before he popped. Is that what it was? Okay.
Because that was like 2006, 2007 when MySpace was still a thing. And
I miss it so much.
Him and Tila Tequila were the ones that kind of rode MySpace.
Yep, you're right.
And yeah, what's funny is if you actually look at the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray or the DVD, you actually see Dane Cook auditioning for, I think it was either Monty or Justin Long's character. But obviously at that point he wasn't quite the name yet. So
he does have the biggest cringy moment. I mean, in Cringe the movie, he's got the cringiest moment with the whole massa shit and the other white guy whipping him with the fucking towel and stuff. I'm like, oh, oof. Yeah. This is rough, Dane. This is rough.
But that's Dane Cook though too. That's it's
I never
employee of the month, and
he was one you could take or leave, and I never took him. I never jumped on that train. And that's another reason I didn't see this movie when it came out, is I fucking hated Ryan Reynolds when this movie came out.
Jesus.
I fucking hated him. Now I like him now. And I liked him when I remember 1997 came out and The Alarmist. I remember thinking like, this kid, I don't know who this kid is, but he's going to go somewhere. I remember being really impressed by him in The Alarmist. I remember being really impressed by him in the movie Dick. And then he did Van Wilder, and I hated him so much for it because I just hate that movie so much. And I couldn't watch anything else he did for a while. I fucking hated it. I hated it. And so I really checked out for like 5-6 years on him. I don't think I came back until The Proposal. I was like, all right, that was pretty good.
Did you see Just Friends?
I did, but not when it came out. Like Govier, our co-host Mike, had to like urge me for years to finally watch it, and I did, but it was probably 5-10 years after it came out. And I do like that movie, but I studiously avoided it, like I did all of his stuff for a while, because I'm like, I get it, I get your shtick, guy, I get it. So I avoided it for that.
I still very vividly remember watching National Lampoon's Van Wilder for the first time and seeing this guy, and I remember being so pissed when it was over, glad when it was over, but also pissed because I was like, I bet you any money this fucking guy is going to explode. And it's just not fair. And then I remember asking my wife, like, why do I hate this guy so much? And she's like, it's your insecurity. He's hot and funny. And I'm mad because you can't have both, man. Come on, like us normal looking guys that are funny, like we got it made, but to be hot and funny, fuck you, man. One or the other.
He has been what People Magazine's sexiest something or other a couple of times, hasn't he? Over the years.
I mean, when there's a scene in the movie where it's just like, here, I'm gonna have my shirt up around my shoulders and my V cut. I'm like, well, that just made its way in there. I mean, I don't mind, but there it is. He's certainly a sex symbol, and he has been, but I don't think he was particularly funny when he came out. I think that he, a specific Dane Cook kind of people that like that kind of delivery liked him, but some of us were very, very turned off for a long time, and he kind of had to start doing very different kind of work to get us to come back to him.
Well, he's also
like Mississippi Grind.
He's done lots of stuff too. He's done. If you think about the Blade, he was in Blade 3, which was not a great film, but he was good in it. I never actually did see Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, but I know he was in it for
I didn't watch
2 or 3 years that it was on.
Yeah. So I didn't watch that stuff either. I mean, I sent Eric and Mike a trailer from his first movie that he made in 1993, where he played like a young boy who was born in India, and he's like a white kid with like an Indian accent named Ganesh. So he's been around for a while, and he's always done some problematic work, apparently. We haven't even gotten to his first stab at Deadpool in X-Men Origins, Wolverine Origins. But so he's had a very storied and different career, and I respect the hell out of him now, but there is definitely a stint there where I'm like, this guy's just not for me. And for it to be like Dane Cook and him in that movie together, I'm like, Justin Long is not going to be the draw to get me in there. Now, Anna Faris maybe could have done it. She's always been great.
But she was great in Just Friends on top of that, too. The whole forgiveness. That song was just awesome.
I mean, she's awesome in everything, and she's awesome in this. I loved her in this. I thought her and Shia McBride were the two best parts of the movie for me. Her character, which we didn't get enough of, when she finally blows up at Monty, at Ryan Reynolds' character and puts him in his place. I'm like, thank God. Finally, for one, someone's putting him in his place. And for two, like finally a big moment from Anna Faris, because I'm like waiting for it. It's Anna Faris. And then the Bishop character played by Shia McBride. I love that he's the dishwasher and he's like the guru, that he's like, this is the guy you go to if you want your nickel's worth of psychology or whatever. But I just love that he had like he actually had like good advice, and like was the calm center of the place. So I really like those two characters specifically. So as far as a diverse cast of people goes, I think there are some likable people in there. Then you have people like, I love Luis Guzman, and I fucking hated him in this. I'm like, dude, put your dick away. No one that hot is trying to fuck Mr. Chef Pants by the dumpster. Like, I don't believe that. She looks like a porn star. You look like, Gomez.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, man. And that, Brian, we hate to just shit on your movie, dude, but like right off the bat, like I'm like, we're like 5 minutes in, and I've had like 5 dick jokes, like 5 statutory rape jokes.
Oh my
all
God.
Of these terrible obscenities. I'm like, what? Who is this? I mean, I get that it's for like 14-year-old boys, but like, it's just so obnoxious. It was tough, man. It was a struggle.
Ryan Reynolds, it's sort of that. It's Deadpool, but Deadpool 0.0. It's like not Deadpool 2.0. It's the negative 1.0.
Deadpool if you fuck children. And was proud about it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, you compare it to Office Space. You can compare it to a fun hangout movie like Dazed and Confused. Just like we meet all these characters. At first it seems like, well, who are we supposed to follow here? Like, who is my protagonist? And it turns out we're just kind of following everybody around. But like all of this, like the individual stories, what do we have? A guy that's got to pee, a guy that like doesn't really like being a waiter, and then like the new guy. Like, what are these narratives? Like, what are these stories? Why am I rooting for these people?
Well, it's a day in the lifer. I mean, like, I don't know how much we're supposed to be like deeply involved in these characters, because it's not like the only big struggles happening here is with the Dean character played by Justin Long, who's trying to like figure out, am I in this holding pattern for the rest of my life, and we're going to advance to the next step. And so when he quits, like, you know, you can kind of root for that and be like, okay, cool, he's taking a step forward. And then other than that, yeah, there's not like, it's just a slice of life. It's Empire Records. It's just following people around at work and just watching their interactions and having a laugh. It's a hangout movie. So I don't think we need to get too overly invested in their stories necessarily, because I mean, it's a day in the life.
That's true. That's a good point.
And it's that time of life where you're not a kid anymore, but you're not. It's also not your career, and everyone knows it's not their career. Even management knows it's not their career. So how do you handle that portion of your life? I mean, Monty, the character of Monty, is such an Arrested Development character, where he's a guy that you know, you're bringing up Dazed and Confused. He's basically the Matthew McConaughey character from that film. He's the guy who never left high school.
Only at least in Dazed and Confused, you get even though he's played by the super cool and sexy Matthew McConaughey, like it's still it's a more pathetic character. His character is like, it's just the way that it's done. It's just kind of like you're not as on board with that character. Monty's a little too cool and slick, and I think we're supposed to like him a lot more and like root for him. But like, you know, almost everything out of his mouth is about fucking teenage girls, and you know, and that's like, it's kind of a one-trick pony, actually.
But if you think about if you think about it, though, he and Dean's character are theoretically 22-ish years old. They were in high school together,
right?
So there's a little bit of an age difference there, but I think there's a bigger age difference between him Ryan Reynolds, the actor in real life, playing that character at, I think, 25 or 26 at the time, but the character being 22, 23-ish. They never really quite established it, but
no, I think that's definitely true and a good point. But it like in 2005, you want to make a joke like that, like, okay, but like it's like, wow, you're just beating this horse through like the whole movie. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, all right, what else is going on with this guy? You know.
Well, that's part of it too. Is there's not much else going on. This is the guy that hasn't matured at all. He's still kind of in that spot where he's partying every night. He's making fun of anything and everybody.
Yeah,
and that's his character. That's his shtick. And in some ways, it's his armor. Like, if there's a scene in there where we see Monty with his mother, played by Wendy Malick from lots of different stuff, including Young Sheldon. And including Just Shoot Me, and she's the back and forth between Monty and his mother.
Pretty great.
Yeah, you totally see where he's coming from based off of being her son.
Yeah, I thought that was actually one of the stronger scenes in the movie. Their interplay between those two actors was strong, and the dialogue was strong, and it grounds what the character is like. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think, and I think that you're right, but I wish that there'd been more of a feeling like, okay, so Dean's getting out of this. Monty's kind of fucked. Monty's actually, like, he might think he's like, when Mitch, the new guy, tells him, like, you're the coolest guy at shenanigans, that's like being, I forget what he says, something offensive. But it's a good point, right? Like, yeah, you're cool, but only by these standards. And in fact, you're kind of stuck here and you're going to go nowhere. And actually, you're sort of a loser. So I wish that there'd been a little bit more emphasis on the fact that he's really not cool. He's actually a loser. Instead, it's like, oh, wow, look at what growth. He's going to wait a week to fuck a teenager. Like, oh, okay.
Well, but I think it's also part of it too, is he's not necessarily supposed to have, he's not the guy with the arc. The arc is Dean.
That's true.
Dean is the one that actually is actually considering his life, and he's trying to figure out what he wants to do next. Is he going to take the promotion? Is he going to get promoted away to another restaurant? What is he going to do? Monty's just the guy that you're right. He'll be there 7-8 years from now. He may be there 20 years from now, as long as the restaurant's open and he doesn't get fired or arrested. Monty's going to still be there at Bennigan's or Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
That's a good point, Brian. Like, I can totally see that. When you have like one character that has an arc and some vulnerability, and he's surrounded by cartoon characters, it's becomes like a cohesion issue for me. Because literally everybody else is just like sublimely cartoonish. And you look at something like Clerks, where these interactions have a lot to say about friendship and like especially this place in your life. Something like Good Will Hunting, you have this interaction between, Chucky and Will about, if you leave this town or this job, like, where does that leave me? Like, I'll be missing my friend. You don't really have any meaningful conversations about these friendships. It's just hijinks. And that just makes this come off like kind of like a first draft script from some kid to me.
Of course, he worked on it for 8 years. I think you make some good points there, but also I don't think it's fair to compare it to Good Will Hunting. It's fair to
it's not nominated.
Yeah, it's fair to compare it to Clerks, definitely, but I wouldn't. I mean, they're both in that same age range, so I do get why you're making the comparison.
Office Space Employee of the Month, yeah.
I think that I'm going to defend it some here because I think that these are really believable archetypes of restaurant people. Having worked in a restaurant and known lots of people who worked in restaurants and had many conversations with them, I have known a lot of these people. Like the person who's been at the job too long and is just filled with fury and like especially towards the management because they know they could do it better. I've worked with that person. I have worked with the the guy that can't stop flashing his dick or smoking weed or like just being like really, really inappropriate at work. I've worked with a lot of these kinds of people, mostly at a restaurant. So I don't know they're necessarily cartoonish, but I mean, I hear your criticism, but I think that was intentional because you can if you've spent time in this restaurant business, I think you could recognize those archetypes.
Well, and the character of Calvin too, sort of the nice guy character that just doesn't take the hint that the girl who doesn't even appear in the movie, the character who doesn't even actually appear in the film, not even in a voicemail.
Yeah.
And he, the nice guy that's so stuck in his own head that he's working a double on his one day off and he keeps calling her. He's like, yeah, so I'm here. We're all of those. There's all kinds of those characters. I think part of it too is that living in Las Vegas, like I do, this is a service industry town.
Sure.
So even though it's not, I mean, we have all of the light casual, the casual dining, all the Applebee's and all those, but this is also a 24-hour town where almost everyone works in the service industry. So this is one of those films that when I bring it up, when you go to the bar or go to the restaurant, everyone's seen it that works at those places. And it seems to be a pretty common callback to, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I remember working with that guy. Oh yeah. She should have been fired a long time ago. Right. She should have been gone.
Remember training videos? Remember having to like go to the little room and like sit there, like, and they'd like roll out some VHS thing for you to watch from like 20 years ago. God, one of the things about both, I'm guessing that you don't have to do that anymore, but maybe you do. I don't really work those kinds of jobs anymore, but think of the hours of your life spent watching those. Can't get that back. Kind of like watching
just that whole thing where those training videos all have a language in and of themselves, where it's that whole the difference between extra and extraordinary is that little bit extra. that whole kind of cheesy training video thing, that language is very 80s and 90s.
This score, like, I don't know what the budget was on this, but like it's really missing at least a couple of hits because like the music like the music cues are like temp track, like feel this way, like very lame, like rock alt like score, like for like every joke has like its own little score. It's very odd and dumb. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but score is really stupid.
I noticed
Yeah,
the,
look at
the
the
soundtrack. I mean, I heard Goldfinger at one point. In
I
there.
heard
I'm
one
like, oh,
Goldfinger song, then I heard like some really lame like alt rock guitar for like the jokes.
Well, this was
yeah.
a $3 million budget film, which is low even
Oh,
for
so low,
mid two
and
thousands.
it made back double that, which is great. Really, all they. I mean, one of the things a genre of film that I like that I've discussed before is like movies that are all set in one place, and this movie's not all set in one place. You get a couple other houses and that kind of stuff, but for the most part, it's all in that restaurant. When you get that first pan of the entire restaurant in the very beginning, I'm like, holy shit! I've been in this restaurant many times in many towns. I think they picked a really good location, and obviously it was a cheap one. I'm guessing people were taking probably lighter paychecks. People like Ryan Reynolds, probably not. I mean, they were still early in their careers, so they weren't demanding huge paychecks. But this was, $3 million. It looks like more than $3 million, but it made the money back, which is great for them. Made Still Waiting. It led to Still Waiting, which
I wouldn't recommend anybody watch Still Waiting.
Yeah,
Still Waiting is the anti-waiting, in my opinion. That was the height before streaming. That was the height of the straight to DVD. Like American Pie 17 going straight to DVD, where they can't even afford Eugene Levy anymore. Kind of. Like the only people they brought back from this film for the film proper were Alina Ubach as Naomi and Calvin.
Oh wow!
And even at that, like Calvin is the manager of an off-brand Hooters, basically that's next door. It's like everything that you would hate in a story pitch meeting for a sequel to Waiting is what they put into the sequel. Like there's hardly any character moments. It's every stereotype. It's even shot on digital, like when digital looked a lot cheaper. To where there's actually they do a callback to Calvin not being able to pee, and they have a couple of shots from this film,
and you can
totally tell the difference between the stuff from this film that was shot on film and the sequel, which is clearly a low grade videotape or digital.
That's what happens when a small budget movie makes money like that. I guess they're like, well, let's just crank it out and see who comes to see it. That's a shame, but I can't say I'm tremendously surprised that the movie that brought us The Batwing did not have a great sequel.
Oh, the brain.
I remember our friend Jason used to do that. He didn't call it the brain though. He called it the fruit salad, which I don't know why, but shout out to Jason and his fruit salad.
The fruit salad. That's a great name too.
That's pretty good.
Is it funny when like they fuck with the food like 20 times? Like,
no.
Well, it's gross, but it's also the whole thing of don't fuck with your server.
There's a Fight Club message happening here for sure. We watch you while you sleep. We make your steak for you. Don't fuck with us. That woman that sends the food back is the biggest dick I think I've ever seen on film. She's so convincing. Give that woman an Oscar. Really convincing asshole. She does a fine job there.
And then the guy that the manager ends up at his house by accident at the end of the film. Dude. I swear he reminds me of Roger Clemens with the Wine 'em Dine 'em 69 'em hat that shows up at the end of every Farrelly Brothers film.
Definitely. That was definitely right about when those trucker hats were coming back too. But if you're going to set a movie in Florida, you got to have at least one Confederate flag in there, and they weasel that in there at the end of the movie.
We actually even have a few of those here in Vegas, believe it or not, those Confederate flags. They show up at UNLV football games every once in a while, which is
amazingly they're everywhere. But so
in the southern in southern Nevada.
Right.
Any other notes that anything else we want to touch on here that we didn't get to?
I don't know.
Take that as a no. I'm kind of starting to like ring that rag completely dry here. I think I've hit on all the points that I was going to make. Brian, you got anything else you want to address before we get into whether or not we believe it holds up?
It's rewatching this film. This is a film that I watch and rewatch quite a bit, but I haven't watched it in the last couple of years, just for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it a lot of the stuff was kind of, I remember it. It's not like I forgot the film, but some of the stuff it struck me as something that no studio would would do nowadays, especially after all the Me Too stuff and a lot of the rights issues kind of stuff that pop up that have changed in culture as our culture has changed over the last 15 years. Like we're just showing each other's junk. There wouldn't be all the gay jokes that are in this film would not be in a film nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of blatant sexual harassment. Like he just meets the new guy and like pinches his nipple and calls him cute.
Yeah,
that's you could sue him for that now if you want to.
Yeah, yeah, and then the stuff with Nate and T-Dog or Theodore.
Ooh, that's problematic.
Max Ketchum's character.
Believable though. Again, like I've met those fucking guys. I have met those guys. Unfortunately, I lived in Florida.
Like the kids from the suburbs that are really into rap music. That's how they talk.
Well, not all of them. Not all of them give themselves cornrows and like nicknames. But well, I guess enough of them do.
Where I'm from, people did. A lot of the white teenagers in the suburbs. The middle class suburbs of Seattle, Washington, the northern suburbs. You would see that back in the 90s.
Yeah, you saw it here in Michigan too, for sure. Unfortunately. All right, man. Well, you brought this to the table. We'll let you start things off here in terms of your final assessments, and then let us know what you think. Does this movie hold up or not?
I think it does, because the guts of the story of the character arcs of Dean and even Monty to a certain extent, in the fact that he doesn't really even have one. That is who he is at that point in his life, and he doesn't have to sandwich in 3 years worth of personal growth into an hour-and-a-half movie. That is who he is. He's the equivalent of a frat guy. He is that is who he is, and on top of that, Anna Faris at that point in her career probably could have been doing any other film, but the fact that she wanted to come down and do that film and have that scene back and forth with Ryan Reynolds, I still love that scene. And if you watch the special features on the Blu-ray, they talk about developing that scene and the back and forth and who should win that argument and how should it end. I love that scene, and even Caitlin Doubleday as the love interest for Dean.
Okay.
She hasn't had much of a career, but she is a working actress since then, and I actually like her character in this film being the understanding girlfriend, the one who doesn't want to be labeled the bitch. I like her in this film as well as obviously Chi McBride, the one adult in the room who's still the busser, and Louis Guzman just going completely over the top. Louis Guzman, even Louis Guzman explaining the rules of the game and the editing and the cutting back and forth. That is the other thing too. The editing in this film is really well done for maintaining storylines and not devolving into an American Pie sequel. It has that flow of the original film, and rewatching it last night, I was reminded of how good the editing was done in this film as well.
Yeah, the cutaways and those were pretty effective. Eric,
even the what's the name of it? The device on the wall at the very end, like if you're watching the credits, I forgot the name of it, but the one where one thing leads to another, and then it's pushing all the golf ball around, and then the bottle of beer opens up at the end and then pours into the Rube Baker device. That was it.
The Rube Goldberg, right?
Rube Goldberg, that was it. Yeah. The Rube Goldberg device on the wall, and you're like, God, are they ever going to use that? You can totally tell it's a Rube Goldberg thing. I just love the design of all those sorts of things, like almost like you see in Back to the Future, where there's a couple of the Rube Goldberg setups. So
awesome. Well, what do you think, Eric? You want to jump in?
Well, when I texted you a photograph of me slitting my own throat for having to sit through this, I believe that said it all. Maybe I'll put the photo on Instagram. Dude, I mean, I like this setup. I think we got a fun setup, a movie about the restaurant industry, office space in a restaurant. Kevin Smith was going to do this, Bussers. He was going to do this after, I think, Mallrats, but he stepped away from the project. We got a great conceit here. Hangout movie about a restaurant. The script is just not funny for me. I laughed once. I laughed once when all the cooks are like pissed off about the customer coming in like right before closing time. That I can relate to. We would get so mad at the video store when some asshole would come in and then want to rent a VCR at like 11:55 p.m. Remember? Oh my God, we would get so mad. Yeah, it took like 2 hours to rent any VCR or video game system. I chuckled at that, and I totally can see why a lot of people love this movie. It's relatable, especially for the age range and the industry. But this is like a first draft script for me. It's just, I'm not laughing. Like I'm seeing like a checklist that this guy came up with. Like all this stuff has to happen in the movie. Get pissed off because you got a bad tip. Get mad at it. And it's just like they do that, but like that's it. Like I don't need a bunch of character development here. Like I've seen Swingers where like all of Mike's friends in Swingers just pretty much for the duration of the film stay the same. Like Vince Vaughn, he's the same guy from beginning to end, and that's fun and it works because the dialogue's funny. This is just obscene, disgusting humor from start to finish that bothered me and pissed me off. Probably had its time and its place, but for me coming in here at 2022, I just thought it was trash. I don't think it holds up, man. Brian, I'm glad you brought this to the table because I know we're going to have a lot of fans that are going to be pissed off. But I gotta be true to my own heart and say that this movie is not funny and it's horrible. It sucks.
So it doesn't hold up.
What did you really think?
No, it didn't hold up for me, man.
All right. That leaves it to me, which I feel like I kind of tilted my hand. When Eric sent me a text of him watching the movie, looking bored and pissed. So I sent him a picture of me back with a genuine response. I just waited. I literally at one point took the camera out and waited until Ryan Reynolds made a joke, and then just took a picture of my face afterwards. And it's like me rolling my eyes with my mouth open, annoyed. And then Eric responded with a picture back of where he had literally taken a knife and was holding it up to his neck with a long line of ketchup across the neck. And then I laughed really, really hard. And that was the only time I laughed throughout the entirety of the movie. I did not laugh a single time from the joke like intended from the movie. So for me, if you're watching a comedy and you're not laughing at it, that's a big fucking problem. I do respect some of the things that are going on here, the relatability of these events of the job. I like I said, I love a single location or mostly single location kind of movie. I did dig some of the flashbacks that the movie gave me to 20 years ago when I was working as a line cook. There's certainly value here. And had I seen this movie when it came out in 2005, I feel like I would feel very, very differently about it.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that's a key point that I missed the boat on this one. Cause I mean, in 1990, 4 or 5, when Clerks came out, which a lot of very similar humor here. I ate that up with a spoon. I loved it. I just internalized it and regurgitated the lines and all that kind of stuff. And I do think Kevin Smith's dialogue is far superior, but in a lot of ways, there's not a lot of light, I think, between these two movies when you get down to it. So yeah, I think I've changed in the past 18 years, where to me now to hear this barrage of slurs is as believable and realistic, etc., as it is for the time and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I brought on to this show one of my favorite comedies of all time, Joe Dirt, and found that I can't fucking watch it anymore because it's just so homophobic. And I feel similarly about this. I mean, like, maybe I should not give a fuck about slurs, but I don't like to hear them, man. I just don't like it. It pisses me off, doesn't make me laugh. And if every joke that you've got is based around a slur or like fucking underage children or like exposing yourself in public, like, like all of this shit is just like, woof. So yeah, I fucking hated it. I hated it. I really am thankful that you brought it on, Brian. And I felt a lot of trepidation about, like, I'm like, dude, like, this guy's gonna have such a bad time.
Me and Eric come back, Brian.
Please come back. Please keep watching our show. We appreciate you coming on. I feel like an asshole that I hated the movie that you brought so vehemently, but I really did hate it.
No, but that actually kind of surprises me a little bit. And it's just, I guess it also speaks to time and place.
Yeah.
And
sure.
Time and place doesn't, like there are people that hate spoilers.
Oh yeah.
I'm not one of those people that hate spoilers. The things that I liked 20 years ago, I still like now. And my guess is if I'm still alive 20 years from now, I'll probably still like them. But I recognize that most people, once they, get married and have kids, their perspectives change. And, like, for example, like I don't, like on my channel, I don't swear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not for, and I don't swear as much as I used to 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, especially. But, working for 17 years in TV news, a lot of that gets kind of beat out of you.
I bet.
So I totally get the time and place. If, I think you guys are in your 40s as well.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, we're three guys in our 40s. When I think the obviously the audience for this film is talking to people in their 20s, early 20s.
Yeah.
And for me, that's when I saw this film. And so I automatically kind of snap back to that time and place when I watched this film.
And my sense of humor at that time would have jived perfectly with this shit. That was what I was all about. But unfortunately, change, it stalks us, whether we want to go along with it or not as we age. And my sense of humor is just dramatically changed, I guess. For the better, for the worse, I don't know, but it's changed.
Okay, so what kind of comedy do you laugh at now that you wouldn't have laughed at 20 years ago?
That's a great question.
That is a good question. I think that I find a lot more humor in, actually, I'll take that back. I've always liked dry humor, really like black humor, really dry, crisp humor. And I still respond really well to that stuff. And I think I just laugh less generally as an older person now than I used to.
Wow, that's really interesting, Brian, because like comedy is one of the few genres that definitely you as a viewer are going to look at differently. Watch a horror movie at 13, you're going to still love it at 42. Something like this, it's hard for me to laugh at, mostly because I don't want to sound like a cantankerous old fart, but it's mean-spirited and ugly. And I can't dig that nowadays, man. I can watch something like Anchorman from a year before this and laugh my ass off just because it's silly. It's slapstick. It's vaudeville. But this is just ugly. It's just mean-spirited and ugly. So I don't know what else to say.
I laugh at the Golden Girls a lot. I'm currently watching the
Golden absolutely,
Palace.
Man.
Golden Palace makes me laugh almost every episode. So that's where my humor is now. So
Golden Palace, the spin-off sequel.
The spin-off.
The Golden Girls.
That's what you're dealing with here.
Cheadle?
And Cheech Marin. Yes.
That's right.
Well, I love, like, you're wearing a Dunder Mifflin t-shirt. I love The Office.
I love The Office.
But I could totally see, 10 years from now, a lot of Michael Scott's lines, especially from the early seasons of The Office, could be ones that would make people cringe.
Oh, they already are.
That's the thing. It's such a perfect illustration because Michael's the only one who thinks that stuff is funny. Everyone else lives in the present in that office and they are cringing. Whereas in Waiting, everyone's laughing at these fucking terrible, disgusting jokes.
Which again, like the audience for those jokes are other men of that age or people of that age for the most part. But yeah. All right. Well, so that is Waiting from 2005. Bit of a mixed bag here. I imagine we'll get Mike's our co-host Mike Govier's weighing in on it next week when he comes back, and he'll let us know what he thinks of it. I suspect it will even the score. We'll see. I'll let him speak. We'll let him speak for himself. But for now, it's a 2-1 thing. But we do hope that you come back, and we hope that you had fun, because we've had fun talking to you. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and it's always fun hearing, what people actually think, because I think so often with films, people think they say what they think they should say, or they just kind of go along with it. So I always love hearing opinions that are opposite of mine, as long as or even if it's the same or different, as long as it's a well thought out argument, which both of you guys have done. So that's part of the discussion that I love.
Thank you.
Cool, man. It's fun.
So will wrap our show up as we always do by talking about what we'll be discussing next week. It'll be my turn to pick the next film. Okay. I have had it in my mind for a while that, like, all these movies in my head that I think I want to do, and then I'm like, well, no, it's too good. That one's definitely going to hold up. That one's definitely going to hold up.
Oh yeah.
And then I think to myself, like, what's the point of our podcast then? Like, if I'm assuming that it's going to hold up, maybe that's the whole point, is that we should occasionally, watch ones that or at least I should pick ones that I think are going to hold up, and maybe they won't. At any rate, I've got a movie in mind that it may have been nominated for like 8 Academy Awards or something like that. So it may be still pretty highly regarded, but I thought it'd be fun to go back to 2007 and watch the Tony Gilroy directorial debut of Michael Clayton.
Yes, I've been waiting for this to come on. I figured it was on all of our short lists. Now's the time, because it's been 15 years for me.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long for me, but it's been quite a few years since I watched it. But I'm like, I'm sure it's a fucking great movie. Of course it's a great movie, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's. So I think that I'm going to watch the movie and I don't think I'm going to walk away thinking, oh, that movie sucked. But maybe it's not going to hold up to be the masterpiece that I remember it being. So
see, and I still haven't actually seen Michael Clayton.
Dude, check it out.
You've got some time to check it out, and then tune in with us next week if you want to.
Tune in live. Send us a message.
Yeah. Cool. It's currently streaming on the Roku channel. So there you go.
Sweet.
Love the Roku.
Well, thank you again, Brian. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you had fun.
Yes.
Say you had fun. Okay, good. Yes.
Dragon Movie Guy on YouTube. Like, where can we find you, man?
Primarily YouTube, but also Instagram, even TikTok. I'm on, I'm old enough that I call it the TikTok. So I'm on the Instagram, the TikTok, and the Twitter as well. So
how long have you? I'm sorry, Travis. How long have you been doing the reviews on YouTube? Because I've been watching some guy like Stuckman and Rambo Raff for since 2012. How long have you been on there?
Oh no, I've just February of 2020.
Okay,
was my first video. I should have, if I would have, because I was on YouTube in 2012, but I was just using it for as a resume tape, basically. Because I was 17 years in TV news, 11 of those as a TV news photojournalist. So I was putting my reels on YouTube back then, and I didn't, I had access to a camera, to editing equipment, and I didn't even think to put on movie reviews. And I think, well, gosh, if I would have been in that first class of the Stuckmans, of the Jeremy Johns,
sure.
the growth would have been a heck of a lot easier than it is now. So
dude, I love the videos, man. You're definitely very genuine. You come across as such. You're not shilling it. You're not throwing hyperbole. You're not the type of guy that reads reviews and then just regurgitates. I dig this stuff, man. So I'd encourage everyone to check it out.
Yeah, and you're excited about it, which is fun too. Yeah.
Well, what's the point of doing it if we're not?
That's very true. All right. Well, we are the Cinema 9 podcast for Dragon Movie Guy, Brian, for Eric, for myself, and of course for Mike Govier. We wish you a fond adieu. Thank you so much. And Carpe D's nuts.